The morning sun cast long shadows through the skeletal remains of Atlanta's skyline as Isabella crept between rusted cars on Highway 85. 6 years since the world ended, and she could still taste the metallic fear that coated her tongue whenever she entered Walker territory. Her calloused fingers traced the scar along her jawline, a reminder of the night her family died defending their suburban home. She'd been a veterinary student then, soft hands and softer heart. Now those same hands gripped a suppressed Glock with practiced ease, every muscle memory honed by countless encounters with both the dead and the living. A low moan drifted from behind an overturned semi-truck. Isabella's pulse quickened, but her breathing remained controlled. Asterisk count the sounds. Assess the threat. The move with purpose, asterisk the mantra her mentor Marcus had drilled into her before the whisperers took him. 3 walkers shambled into view, their decomposed faces turned skyward, following some distant sound. Isabella pressed herself against a Honda Civic, feeling the sun-warmed metal through her leather jacket. The nearest walker's skull showed exposed bone, gray matter leaking like spoiled cottage cheese. She fought down the familiar wave of nausea. Not people anymore, she reminded herself. Just obstacles. Crack of a branch made her freeze. Behind the walker's movement, but too coordinated, too deliberate. Human. Well. A gravelly voice cut through the morning air. What do we have here? 3 men emerged from behind the truck, assault rifles trained on her position. The leader's face bore intricate scars, and his smile revealed gold teeth that glinted in the sunlight. Drop the weapons, sweetheart, he called. We just want talk. Isabella's mind raced. The walkers were now between her and the strangers, a potential advantage if she could use them right. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she calculated distances, cover points, escape routes. I'm just passing through, she called back, keeping her voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding her system. Ain't we all? The scarred man gestured to his companions. But see, this here's our territory. Toll road, you might say. The walkers had caught their scent now, turning with jerky movements toward the new voices. Isabella saw her chance and took it. She burst from cover, firing 2 suppressed rounds into the nearest walker's skull. Brain matter splattered across cracked asphalt as she rolled behind a pickup truck. Shouts erupted from the bandits as the remaining walkers, attracted by the commotion, lurched toward them. Contact, one of the men screamed. Gunfire exploded across the highway, the sharp crack of rifles mixing with the wet sound of bullets finding undead flesh. Isabella used the chaos to advance, moving from car to car with fluid precision. Her training kicked in, controlled breathing, smooth trigger pulls, constant movement. She came around a station wagon's rear bumper just as the scarred leader put down the last walker with a shotgun blast that painted the truck's side with gore. Their eyes met across 15 feet of blood-stained pavement. You clever little... Isabella's shot took him center mass before he could finish the sentence. He staggered backward, clutching his chest, gold teeth still gleaming in a grimace of surprise. The remaining 2 opened fire, forcing her to dive behind an overturned motorcycle. Bullets whined off metal and concrete, filling the air with the acrid smell of gunpowder and hot lead. Think, Isabella. What would Marcus do? She pulled a smoke grenade from her pack, one of 3 she'd scavenged from an abandoned National Guard checkpoint. Pin came free with a soft pop. This ends now, she shouted, hurling the canister in a high arc. Gray smoke billowed across the highway like fog rolling off a lake. Isabella moved immediately, using the cover to flank wide around a school bus. Her boots made no sound on the cracked pavement as she circled behind her attackers. The first bandit emerged from the smoke, coughing and firing wildly. Isabella's knife found the soft spot between his ribs before he even saw her coming. He dropped with a gurgled gasp, his rifle clattering away into the silence. The last man's voice came from somewhere in the gray haze. Martinez! Where the hell? Isabella's muzzle found his temple as he turned. Right here. He froze, hands raised, weapon hanging loose on its sling. Through the dissipating smoke, she could see his face clearly now, young, maybe 25, with frightened eyes that reminded her of her brother Danny. "Please," he whispered. "I got kids back at camp. We're just trying to survive, same as you." The weight of the Glock seemed to increase in her grip. How many times had she heard similar pleas? How many times had mercy gotten good people killed? "Your camp," she said quietly. "Where?" "Abandoned mall, 20 miles south." "We're not raiders, I swear." "Tommy he gets desperate when food runs low." Isabella studied his face, searching for deception. After 6 years, she'd learned to read the subtle tells, the micro-expressions that separated truth from lies. This man was genuinely terrified. "What's your name?" "Jake." "Jake Morrison." "Jake Morrison, you're going to walk away from here. You're going to go back to your mall, and you're going to tell whoever's in charge that Isabella Reeves says this highway is off limits. You understand?" He nodded frantically. "Yes, ma'am. Absolutely." "And Jake?" Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "If I see any of your people on this road again, there won't be a conversation." She watched him disappear into the maze of abandoned vehicles, then slumped against a car door as the adrenaline finally began to ebb. Her hand shook slightly as she reloaded her weapon, not from fear, but from the familiar cocktail of relief and revulsion that followed every violent encounter. When did I become this person? The question had haunted her for months now. The scared veterinary student who once cried over wounded animals had become something harder, sharper. Necessary, perhaps, but unrecognizable. A new sound cut through her brooding, the distant rumble of engines approaching from the south. Isabella quickly scavenged ammunition from the dead bandits and took position behind an overturned delivery truck. The convoy that rounded the bend was unlike anything she'd seen in months. Well-maintained vehicles, disciplined formation, armed escorts on motorcycles. The center rolled a modified RV that looked more like a mobile command center than a refugee wagon. The lead motorcycle pulled up 50 yards away, its rider dismounting with practiced efficiency. Even at this distance, Isabella could make out the crossbow slung across his back, the angel wing vest that had become legendary among survivor communities. Daryl Dixon. Her breath caught. The man was a ghost story made flesh. Tales of his group's exploits had spread from settlement to settlement like wildfire. Some called them heroes. Others called them dangerous idealists who stirred up trouble wherever they went. "Morning!" Daryl called out, his voice carrying clearly across the highway. "You all right over there?" Isabella hesitated. Every instinct screamed at her to remain hidden, to let the convoy pass. Getting involved with Daryl's people was a complication she couldn't afford. But the bodies of the bandits lay scattered across the road, and smoke still drifted from her grenade. There was no hiding what had happened here. She stood slowly, hands visible but near her weapons. "I'm fine," she called back. "Just some trouble with would-be toll collectors." Daryl's sharp eyes took in the scene, the dead walkers, the human bodies, the tactical precision of the engagement. When he looked back at her, there was something like respect in his expression. "Looks like you handled it real well." He gestured to his convoy. "We're heading north to Virginia. Alexandria's always looking for people who can handle themselves." Alexandria. Isabella had heard whispers about the walled community. Hot showers, regular meals, something approaching civilization. Sounded too good to be true. Everything that sounded too good usually was. "Thanks for the offer," she replied. "But I travel alone." "So did I once." Daryl's smile was barely visible beneath his shaggy hair. "But alone gets you killed eventually. I learned that the hard way." Behind him, the RV's door opened and a woman stepped out. Brunette, confident bearing, a pistol holstered at her hip. Even without introduction, Isabella recognized her from the stories. Maggie Greene, the woman who'd helped bring down the saviors. "Daryl?" Maggie's voice carried a slight southern accent. "Everything okay?" "Yeah." Just met someone who knows how to handle herself in a tight spot. Maggie's green eyes assessed Isabella with the sharp intelligence of a natural leader. I'm Maggie. And you are? Isabella. Well, Isabella, you're welcome to join our convoy. We could use someone with your skills. The offer hung in the morning air like smoke from her grenade. Isabella felt the familiar pull of longing, for community, for purpose beyond mere survival. But she also felt the weight of experience, the knowledge that every group eventually turned on outsiders when resources got scarce. I appreciate the offer, she said finally. But like I told Daryl, I work better alone. Maggie nodded, understanding flickering in her expression. I get it. The world's made it hard to trust. She pulled a small radio from her belt and tossed it to Isabella, who caught it one-handed. That's tuned to our frequency. If you change your mind or if you run into trouble you can't handle alone, just call. Convoy began to move again, engines rumbling to life like mechanical thunder. As the last vehicle disappeared around a bend, Isabella found herself holding the radio like a lifeline she wasn't sure she wanted to use. The highway stretched endlessly in both directions, a ribbon of cracked asphalt cutting through the bones of the old world. Somewhere to the south lay the mall full of desperate survivors who might come looking for revenge. Somewhere to the north lay Alexandria and the promise of something better. Isabella pocketed the radio and began walking north, her shadow growing longer as the sun climbed higher. Behind her, the dead bandits would soon attract scavengers, both human and otherwise. But that was someone else's problem now. Her boots found their rhythm on the broken pavement, and for the first time in weeks, Isabella allowed herself to imagine what hot showers might feel like again. The road ahead was long and uncertain, but it was her road to travel. Alone, she told herself. Just like always. But the radio's weight in her pocket suggested that maybe, just maybe, that was about to change.